In the vast and often chaotic arena of American politics, where confrontations, fiery speeches, and verbal sparring matches dominate the landscape, one incident that drew unprecedented attention and electrified public discourse was when former President Donald Trump attempted to mock the past of Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, underestimating both her composure and her ability to turn the tables within moments, and in that heated exchange she not only silenced him but gave him a sharp ultimatum: 3 seconds to apologize, a gesture that encapsulated not only her confidence but also the growing impatience of a generation of leaders unwilling to tolerate mockery, disrespect, or belittlement. And when we examine the deeper dimensions of this event, it becomes clear that this was not just another argument or a fleeting headline, but rather a profound illustration of the clash between old-school political tactics of ridicule and intimidation, and the new wave of leaders demanding accountability, respect, and dignity. For Trump's style of politics has long thrived on the ability to ridicule opponents, to reduce complex issues into soundbites, and to turn personal histories into weapons of derision, something he had done repeatedly against adversaries ranging from presidential candidates to journalists. But in Crockett he encountered a resistance that was not only fierce but also strategic, because her insistence that he had exactly 3 seconds to apologize resonated with millions who saw in her defiance a symbolic pushback against years of unchecked rhetoric. And to properly grasp why this confrontation had such an impact, one must trace both Trump's established rhetorical style and Crockett's background as a rising political figure. Since Trump's political playbook often relied on exploiting vulnerabilities, whether real or exaggerated, by branding opponents with nicknames, mocking physical appearances, questioning intelligence, or bringing up elements from their past, a strategy that energized his base but also polarized the nation. And while many critics froze or stumbled when facing such attacks, Crockett's response was different, grounded in a long career of facing challenges, overcoming barriers, and proving her worth in environments where she was often underestimated. So when Trump thought he could derail her by mocking her past, what he underestimated was the resolve of someone who had lived through those very experiences, owned them, and transformed them into a narrative of resilience. And that was precisely why her 3-second ultimatum was not merely rhetorical flair but rather a reflection of how the tables had turned. For the symbolism of time, 3 seconds, carried immense weight, suggesting that gone are the days of waiting patiently for respect or allowing mockery to linger unchallenged. Instead, this new generation of leaders demands swift accountability, immediate recognition of wrongdoing, and a culture where apologies are not avoided or spun but required. And in those few tense moments the entire dynamic of political debate shifted from ridicule to reckoning, and millions of Americans watching or reading about the incident felt that this was not only Crockett's victory but a victory for those who had long endured the politics of mockery, because her stance resonated with women, minorities, young voters, and all those tired of seeing personal histories turned into ammunition. And when she drew the line and demanded an apology within 3 seconds, she framed the entire conversation around dignity and accountability, forcing Trump into a position he rarely occupied, being the one cornered, challenged, and pressed for contrition. And though he attempted to brush it off with his usual bravado, the narrative had already shifted, since Crockett had redefined the terms of engagement, showing that political discourse could no longer be dominated by unchecked insults, that every attempt to demean could be countered with assertiveness, and that apologies, once seen as weakness in Trump's brand of politics, could now be reframed as the very currency of strength, respect, and moral clarity. And if we zoom out and consider the cultural and political ramifications of this moment, it is clear that Crockett's response reverberated far beyond the walls of Congress or the immediacy of media coverage, because in an era where political battles are fought not just on legislative floors but across social media, television, and the broader court of public opinion, such moments crystallize into symbolic victories or defeats, shaping narratives and influencing public sentiment. And Crockett's refusal to be mocked, her ability to confront Trump without hesitation, and her insistence on immediate accountability represented a larger cultural shift towards empowerment, particularly for women in politics who have historically been subjected to patronizing or dismissive rhetoric. And by standing her ground, Crockett sent a message that transcended partisanship, reminding the public that dignity is non-negotiable, that the past cannot be used as a tool of humiliation when one has owned it and turned it into a story of perseverance, and that respect must be demanded in real time, without delay, without deferral, without compromise. And the more we analyze this, the more we see how it reflects a broader transformation in American politics, where traditional figures of authority, who once commanded conversations through volume, charisma, or ridicule, are being challenged by figures who prioritize truth, accountability, and resilience. And this change, embodied in Crockett's confrontation, is indicative of a generational shift where leaders like her are not only prepared to engage but to redefine the rules of engagement. shifting the balance of power in debates and holding even the most powerful figures to standards of respect. And as the dust settled on this particular confrontation, commentators, analysts, and ordinary citizens began dissecting the symbolism of those 3 seconds, the meaning of demanding an apology, and the broader implications for a political culture that has too often rewarded mockery, and the consensus that emerged was clear. Crockett's boldness was not a one-off moment but part of a larger trend, a refusal to be intimidated, a demand that politics evolve beyond insults into accountability, and in this sense the confrontation was not just between Trump and Crockett but between two visions of political discourse, one rooted in derision and intimidation, the other in respect and assertion, and in those few moments when Trump mocked her past and Crockett fired back with her 3-second demand, the world witnessed a microcosm of that larger battle, one that will likely continue to define the political stage for years to come, with every such exchange reminding us that the future belongs not to those who mock but to those who stand their ground, command respect, and demand accountability in real time without flinching, without retreating, and without compromise.